Next, we're going to have Dr. Brooke Breaux from the Psychology Department talking about language and embodied cognition.
Hi, I'm Brooke Breaux. I'm the director of the Cognitive and Psycholinguistics Research Lab, CAP Lab for short. Each semester, the CAP Lab consists of several project teams consisting of both undergraduate and graduate students. The things that we're interested in are semantics, or the underlying meanings in language. And we ask questions like, what do people say? And why do people say what they say? And how do others understand what people have said? And I'm particularly interested in words, meaning, and figurative language. So what is meaning? How is it represented in the mind? Does it look anything like the definitions that we might find in a dictionary? Traditional approaches from the cognitive sciences in terms of meaning have taken an information processing perspective and talked about this in terms of the computer metaphor. Turns out computers are good at processing a lot of things, but they tend to lack something that we take for granted, our body and our sensory systems that interact with the world. And so we might not think this is important for something as complex as language, but Glenberg and Kashak have shown that an action-sentence compatibility effect, the ACE effect. So what is this? Well, it shows us this important interaction. What they asked people to do was really simple. They had people read sentences, and people had to decide, did the sentence make sense or not? So boil the water, yes, that makes sense. Boil the air, no, that doesn't make sense. Now, they did add in another element. So in order to see a sentence to read it, people had to press a button. And then in order to make a yes response that it made sense, they had to move their body. And in fact, their hand, in this case, to the green key, so away from their body. But if they thought sentences like you see on the screen, Courtney handed you the notebook, open the drawer, Liz told you the story, that information, that movement is all towards the body. And so that's incompatible. And that's exactly what Glenberg and Kashak found, that when the movement implied by the sentences matched the movement necessary to make a yes response, people were faster than when those were mismatched. So this is the ACE effect. What does it mean for the way that we process language? Well, what it tells us is that maybe word meaning really isn't just looking something up in the dictionary, right? That it involves more dynamics. And that maybe what we're doing in the world is dynamic. So does the ACE effect happen for all types of language, right? We know it happens for some. What about figurative language? Well, researchers Lakoff and Johnson have proposed that maybe yes it does, and maybe language is embodied, even figurative language. So Casasanto and a colleague followed up on this hypothesis that even figurative language is embodied. And again, it's very much like the ACE effect, where if people had to move marbles up, right, and they saw blue words, which blue indicates you have to move up, that they were faster when the movement applied in the word also matched the movement that they had to make in the world. They found this also with emotions, so that people, when they were making upward movements, would remember more personally emotional relevant stories that were positive than when they were moving down, they would remember the negative stories. So research in my lab has started to focus on death-related language. And interestingly, this is a really figurative area, right? There's lots of figurative language. And a lot of it we can easily define or classify as positive or negative. And also we can define it as upward moving or downward moving. And so we're in the process of doing follow-ups where we're taking what Casasanto did, but we're using our own death-related language. And what we're trying to tease apart are the effects of that upward movement and downward movement and that metaphor, right? The positive being happy and the negative being sad. We also want to do this with emotion. So we give people these sentences and they respond to them. We want to know, what do they remember better in the end? If they're making upward movements, do they remember more positive statements that we gave them, and if they're moving downwards, do they remember more of the negative statements? So what does this all mean? What does it come back to? Well, it's all very interesting. And what these findings suggest is that the way we move through and interact with the world can change the way that we think. And so the more that we understand this connection, the more we can use this knowledge to create positive change. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Breaux.